connection is touted through healing communities as being extremely important to the point where even the CDC says this. They say social connections are important to our mental and physical health. Being connected to others helps protect against serious illness and disease. The CDC says being connected with others helps protect against serious illness and disease. So with all the experts and all the doctors and all the scientists and the Center for Disease Control all getting together and saying social connections are key for your health, why do I say they are all wrong? why, why in the world would I say they are all wrong? And I guess wrong is a harsh term to use, but sometimes we tend to be mistaken about the concept of connection and it's misleading. So then it leads us to not understand what we need to do to heal. The danger of the healing community putting so much emphasis on connection and saying that social connections are going to be the key to your healing is many of us suffer from loneliness as is, and that just exacerbates the feelings of loneliness. Further, we think that what we need to do in order to get relief from the loneliness is find people to socialize with. But in the process of finding people to socialize with, you up your chances of finding more toxic people. And then if you're with toxic people, especially not being healed because you're not great at vetting people, then more toxic people actually means less healing and it becomes a vicious cycle. The reason why we are in trauma recovery is because of the connections. So when they say, oh, the answer is the connections, I'm asking people to slow down for a second. It is the connections that put us here in trauma recovery. It's the social connections, it's the family connections, it's the people. That's where we got the abuse, that's where we got the neglect. That's where we got hurt. That's where we got traumatized. That's where we lost our trust. That's where we learned to lose our love for ourselves, to lose our trust for ourselves. And it's not as easy as just go out and find some good social connections and then you're going to feel better. Well, sure, that would make you feel great. But how do we know who the good people are? It's not so simple. The good people are are blending in with the bad people. The bad people are masking up, so you don't know who they are. So the first thing to understand is that there's a fallacy of connection, and the fallacy of connection is that if we go out and we make social connections with people, you're going to be healed, feel better as a result. And it can be very exhilarating, don't get me wrong, to find a friend. That can be very exhilarating, but it is not the key to your healing. The key to your healing is actually reframing and understanding how you're supposed to categorize all these things like connection and loneliness. And that's what I'm going to help you do today. Okay, so by definition, in psychology, connection is defined as a subjective feeling of being close to others or a community. In psychology, connection is defined as a subjective feeling of being close to others or a larger community. It can also be described as a sense of belonging, understanding, and shared identity with others. A sense of belonging, understanding, and shared identity with others. I'm going to agree with that definition. Sure. Good. So that's what we call connection. We're talking about the subjective feeling of being close to others, right? In a community. We're talking about the sense of belonging. So some of the key aspects of connection that are taught in the psychological community is that we have quality connections. So it's not so much about how many connections, but it's about the quality over the quantity. Another key aspect is that you have safety in your connections to feel like you can speak your mind, speak your opinion, right? And so you would probably get encouraged by most, go out and find groups that you can feel safe in. And I think you should find groups like that, but it's not going to heal you from your trauma, not necessarily. Sometimes it can help. It can be a very, very, very helpful thing. But you have to learn to categorize these things correctly. Okay? When they talk about social connections, listening to others' points of view, sharing something personal with others, supporting others in a way that goes beyond what's expected, expressing how much you care for others. These things tend to make us feel connected. But the definition of connection is a subjective feeling or sense of being close to others. Subjective. Subjective means that it's based on your own opinion, thoughts, beliefs. Therefore, the correct understanding of connection is that connection is a projection. Let me slow it down, just make sure you caught it. In the definition of connection, it says it is a subjective feeling or sense of being close to others. Subjective means according to your own thoughts and beliefs. So therefore, I am telling you that connection is actually a projection, meaning that you think you're connected with someone because you think you're connected with them. It doesn't mean there's some magical electrical thing that's happening between you and the other person. There's no miraculous spark that's healing you between you and the other person. And you know this is true because you've been in relationships where the other person felt connected, but you didn't feel that way, haven't you? When you were people pleasing? Am I jogging your memory? When people loved being around you, they thought you were great. They thought you were so helpful. They thought you were so nice. They were feeling connected to you. But their connection was a projection, wasn't it? Because you didn't feel connected to them. And guess what? That can go the other way around. We can feel like, this is great. I'm in a great relationship. I'm feeling connected with this person, only to find out that they don't feel that way about us. In fact, we went through that with our narcissist, didn't we? How many of you, show of hands, thought your narcissist loved you at some point? How many of you thought, oh man, this narcissist loves me? It could have been your mom, right? it could it could have been your dad, could have been your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband. You're like, man, this man loves me. He married me. Could have been your wife, right? So you had a projection of connection. You thought that someone loved you, and that person didn't love you because they're not even capable of having the type of love that you're talking about. As I've mentioned, they can have an affinity for a person. They can be obsessed with a person, but I digress. It wasn't love. So what is this mystical connection that everybody's talking about that's supposed to heal us? Because when you were in these relationships and you felt connected, you felt good. It was healing you, wasn't it? It was making you feel great. You were whistling with the birds. The sun seemed like it was shining more. You felt so connected. But it was all a projection. That's what I'm pointing out to you right now. And you're like, yeah, you're right. It was my projection. It was how I felt. Some mothers and fathers feel connected to their children, and the children are like, oh my God, I can't wait to get away from this person. Or maybe you were the kids in that relationship. You had parents that were just Delulu, and you were like, I can't with these people. I can't wait to get away from these people. Right? You feel like you're having a connection. This reminds me, I just had a flashback. There was this cartoon on the Animaniacs. It was this skit where there was a little girl, I believe she was blonde. There was some type of little animal that she thought was a fluffy puppy or something like that. And she would grab the animal and hug the animal so tight and squeeze the animal and just smother it with love. In her mind, there were hearts floating. She was having a connection, but this animal couldn't wait to get away from her. Right? And we see that play out in cartoons. If you're from the older generation, you might remember Pepe Le Pew. This is a He was a skunk that was in love with a cat. If I get my facts right here. And so he was just, oh, Mademoiselle, la, 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 and he's following he's thinking, this is true love. I have met the one. And meanwhile, it was a cat, just some paint had fallen on her back. And she's like, I got to get out of here. This is a skunk. I don't want to be with the skunk. Right. In his mind, there was a connection. In her mind, it was a red flag, very toxic situation. Odd thing to make a cartoon about, but it was a different time period. So we see there's these concepts in pop culture. Uh, Steve Urkel in Family Matters, he was in love with Laura Winslow, and so anything she said, he would twist it to make it seem like it was still going to happen between them. So if he was like, "Hey, you know, do you want to come out on a date with me tomorrow night?" And she'd be like, "No, I don't think that's going to happen tomorrow night." And he's like, "Tomorrow night you can't." So that means there's a chance. That means there's a chance. He had a connection in his brain. He's making connections. His connection is a projection. All of our connections are projections because we don't know what another person is actually thinking or feeling. All connection is a projection because we don't actually know what another person's thinking and feeling. So even if you're in a loving, stable marriage or relationship, you're assuming that this person honestly loves you, but you don't know, right? You don't actually know. And it's important to actually ground yourself. It'll help you tremendously with the letdowns in the relationship to ground yourself to realize you don't actually know if they love you. You see the signs and the actions of love. And that's good. And that's very important. Very important. But it's important to recognize too, I don't know if they really love me. What I'm sensing as connection is that I perceive their actions as being the actions of love, and I like doing the actions also of love. And I'm perceiving that as connection because it aligns with your values. It's giving you a drop of good chemicals, chemicals that feel good in your system. Does that make sense? Again, the feeling of connection, there is something that feels very special, very warm, very tingly. It is real because you're getting the drops of chemicals that feel good in the system: serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine. That's a beautiful cocktail, by the way. Any of us, if we could whip up a cocktail of that tonight, we would. And I'm going to show you how to do it. But if you could just whip up a quick cocktail, wouldn't that be nice? So you just go in your cabinet, pull down some serotonin, a little oxytocin, a little dopamine, and just, I don't have to scroll on TikTok. I don't have to watch cable. I don't have to do anything. Just take a little sip of this. Oh, I feel so good right now. I feel so good. And that's why a lot of people get into abusing substances, right? Because of that desire to have the feelings that connection would bring. But I want you to understand that connection is a projection. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. And I want you to know where it comes from because when you realize that your connection, your feelings of connection doesn't actually come from the other person, you're free. I am breaking you free. When you realize the feelings of connection doesn't actually come from the other person. It comes from that beautiful cocktail, the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the endorphins getting dropped into your system from your brain. Then you're free. You're free now. So you can stop running like Pepe Le Pew trying to chase down people, trying to figure out who's going to be the one to give you this love, this connection. You can stop because it doesn't come from another person. It is a subjective feeling. It's based on your personal perception. That's how we can look at a woman who's in a relationship and say, wow, your husband is amazing. He is so nice. He is so kind. And she could be like, whatever. I mean, yeah, I guess he's all right, but he's so boring because that's her perception of the situation. Said she's in a boring marriage. Others of us are saying you're in a safe, stable marriage. It's the same relationship, different perception. Does that make sense? Same relationship, different perception. So you have the ability to control if you feel connectedness. So yes, when they say that it's good for our health to feel connectedness, they're right. Serotonin, oxytocin, it's very good for your health to get those chemicals. They're right. But when they say that it comes from socializing, they are wrong. They are wrong. That's typically where we think it comes from. But the reality is, just being around people doesn't mean that you're going to feel connected or that they're going to feel connected to you. A lot of times they base this on these studies that they do where they survey people, and people who say that they're happy, they ask if those happy people also have connections in their life, and they say yes. And then they ask the people who say they're unhappy if they have connections in their life, and they say no. And then they say, wow, we're seeing a correlation between people who have connections. Those people tend to be the people who feel happy. Therefore, you have to have connections in your life, i.e., friends and family, in order to be a happy person. So let's go publish this and put it out to the world. Bleh. But I'm trying to clean up the mess and help you understand that correlation is not causation, meaning just because the two are correlated, that happy people tend to have connections, it doesn't mean that the connection is the cause of their happiness. And you know that because you've seen that in real life. Think about your social clubs, your groups, your congregation, your think about your school, right? Your family groups, whatever little group that you can think of. There's been people who show up who are not likable. As a The reason they're not likable is because they're not like happy, right? They're grumpy, they complain, they groan, they moan, they mope, all right? And then as a result, are they popular? Are they making a lot of connections? In one of my communities, we got a guy like this. I'm not gonna say his name, so I'll just call him Andrew. Hopefully, I don't forget that that's the name I gave him. It's a fake name. Anyway, Andrew shows up. He's a tall guy, relatively good looking, so he should be able to make connections here in this social group in this community. But nobody likes Andrew, and the reason nobody likes Andrew is because Andrew shows up with a bad attitude. He's just the kind of person who just looks he just participates with a scowl on his face. and then and then when he is talking to someone, he's criticizing what people are doing, and he's hung up on the rules, so he prioritizes the rules over the social aspect of the group, right? And the other night he actually got in an argument with an established member of this community over the rules. Like, no, they're not following the rules. And he's like, yes, that's a part of the rules. No, and he's doing this argument for a long time. As a result, people don't like to partner with this guy for activities. So I go, hey, did you want to partner with so and with what's the name I gave him? I already forgot the fake name I gave him. I said, oh, do you want to partner with the I kid you not, there was a guy there. He was very low status in the group. And I asked him if he wanted to partner with this unlikable guy, Andrew, thank you. And he was like, nah, no thanks. In other words, I would rather sit here, low status, have no connection or partner with anyone, not get to participate, rather than to go and hang out just a little bit with this unlikable guy. So if he went and did one of these surveys, he probably would mark, no, I'm not happy. And he would probably also mark, I don't have connections. And so all these scientists would say, well, there you go. If this guy just had connections, some social connections, he would be happy. And I'm not saying that's totally wrong, but I am saying that the correlation isn't the causation because he does show up to the social stuff, but we don't like him because he is unhappy and his unhappiness causes no connection. Now, how many times have you felt attracted to someone who was clearly an unhappy person? Unhappy people aren't attractive, right? And so we have to back up on the data and analyze it from a different perspective also, and accept that, yeah, it could go that way where the connections could make someone happy, but also the happiness helps us make more of the social connections. So if you want to make more friends, it's better to appear to be more happy and well adjusted. And don't be like him obsessing over the rules instead of prioritizing the social connections with one another. But this concept of connection being a projection empowers you so that you can feel the feelings of connection that you need for your health. How can we do this? Well, first, we have to change our belief system and our perception system around it, right? So instead of saying, oh, I need my children to live close in order for me to feel connected with them, we can instead relax ourselves and say, I feel connected to my children right now. Isn't that beautiful? We can imagine our children in our minds and feel a sense of connection all the way across the country. And even though we're imagining it, true, we are imagining it, this is a positive delusion because your subconscious doesn't know the difference. It will drop the chemicals into your system. It will drop the chemicals of serotonin and oxytocin into your system. And you're not even seeing your kids. I'm talking about adult children right now. And you're not even seeing your adult children because they moved away. So you can still feel connected. You can recognize that you have the ability to feel connected to members of your community. When we talk about communities, I want you to break away from the tribe of your origin, of your birth, right? Your birth tribe, family of origin, they call it. That's your birth tribe. You needed it when you were a kid. You don't need it anymore. This is a part of your brainwashing to believe that you still need your family of origin, even when you're an adult and you're out and you're paying bills. It's not a need anymore. It'd sure be wonderful if they're good people, if we can stay in touch. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But if they were abusive or if they're toxic, it's important to recognize they are not a need anymore. I can go out into the greater tribe. So all of you are already a part of the greater community, of the greater tribe. Okay? So you don't have to feel like the only people you can call, rely on, connect with are the people that you grew up with when you were a kid. Does that make sense? So one survivor said when she drank a little bit too much, she got lost, and then she got on the phone and started calling her adult children. And she started saying things that she regretted, right? And so then she regretted that she did that. So when we were working it out in our therapy session, I helped her to recognize she was wondering why did I call my adult children? I helped her to recognize that it's because she still processes that they are supposed to be her family. So when she feels vulnerable, like she felt where she felt lost, her automatic subconscious impulse is going to be to reach out to them because that is what she categorizes as her family. Some of us are still stuck on our family of origin that way. So recognize you're a part of a greater tribe and you can relax. These are called connectedness meditations, by the way. You can relax and you can feel a connection to the greater tribe in your community, in your apartment complex, in your neighborhood. You can feel the connections to your greater tribes. And you have lots of different tribes. You got your pickleball tribe and your baseball community and your knitting group and your chess group, right? So you have different groups. These are different communities. The people at school that you go to school with, these are all your different communities. You are a part of those communities. So you don't have to say, I don't have any friends. I don't have any tribe. I don't have any community. Yes, you do. You're automatically a part of the greater community. That's why we clump in cities. That's why we do that. Even if you live suburban, you're still in somewhat of a clump. You're just a little bit further out, right? That's why we clump like this, because we're a part of a greater tribe. So how could she have tapped into a greater tribe rather than thinking she needed to call her adult children when she was drunk and lost? She could have ordered an Uber, hailed a taxi, ordered a Lyft, called her friend who she was originally out drinking with, or you know what I'm saying? So there were other opportunities for her to tap into the greater tribe. And that's what we have to recognize. And then she wouldn't have done something she regretted. And so I want to empower each of you to recognize, oh, I'm a part of a greater tribe. And you can build the feelings of connectedness to this tribe. But it's all how you process it in your mind. It's your perception. One survivor I was working with, he would say, I just need, he was struggling with loneliness. He would say, I just need the touch of a woman. I just need the touch of a woman. It's been so long, Roman. You don't understand. It's been so long. I just need the touch of a woman. And I said to him, keep on saying that and it will become more true. The more you stay stuck in the I need the touch of a woman or a man, I just need a man, I need to be in the arms of a man. You keep on saying it, keep on saying it, keep on saying it. You're making it more true and more true and more true. It's like a slippery slope, it's a trap. And then how will you feel when you look around you and you don't have that? Pain, loneliness, and you're creating it because you told yourself a false story that's not even true. You created it. I need a thing that I don't have. I just need a thing that I don't have. I just need a thing. There is nothing magical, Asgardian, mystical, electric that's going to happen if a woman touches you. You realize that. It's in your mind because you are valuing that. So then if you perceive that it was happening, then you would feel some sense of relief, some dopamine, some oxytocin, and you would go, oh, this is the magic of a touch of a woman. He said, I find that hard to believe. I said, okay, let's let's take an example. So if I took a woman off the street who was dirty and addicted to substances and very unattractive to you, and I brought her up to you and I said, I told her, here, go ahead and touch this guy. Do you think you would feel the magic of the touch of a woman? It was like, ew, no. Right, but she's a woman. So how come nothing miraculous happened when she touched you? What was the problem? Why doesn't he feel, if he needed the touch of a woman, why doesn't he feel anything? Why doesn't he feel relief when she touches him? Why does he feel grossed out? Because this didn't align with his values, his mental. It doesn't align with your vision, your values. So therefore, you're not going to get the release of the chemicals. He's going to get adrenaline and cortisol, like, oh, no, right? So what is the connection really based on? Is it because you need the arms of a man around you or this magical touch of a woman? No. No, it doesn't come from the other person. Well, is it going to come from this emotional bond when you guys talk to it? No, no. It doesn't come from the other person. It comes from your perception that something is aligning with your values. It is a projection. You are projecting that there is a connection between you and another person. So therefore, you can project that right now. You don't need to wait for another human to come and fulfill some spot that you're creating. You can project it right now. Some are in a marriage, by the way, and they may feel connected or they may not feel connected with their spouse. Same thing, you create it. So you can look at your spouse and say, ah, ah. And guess what? You won't feel connected. And then you'll go and start dreaming about all the other guys. But you can turn around and you can look at your spouse and you can cultivate feelings of love and connection towards your spouse. You can look at them in a way that makes you feel connected and fulfilled. You have to change your perception and find a way to make your situation align with your values. So if you're alone or single, then you prioritize privacy, freedom, independence, the things that you solitude, the things that you get from that situation, so that your reality, as you're perceiving it, aligns with your values and you will feel the connectedness. And if you're in a marriage or in a relationship, as long as you're not being abused, then you can change your perception so that you value the relationship that you're in, having that person, the benefits of having another person around, the help that they give you, and you can feel connected. Remember, it's in you. It's not because he's the wrong guy or because you don't have a girl. It's in you. You have to change your perception so that you can have the projection of connectedness. We should also stop viewing other people's treatments as an indication of our unworthiness or that we're rejected or that we don't have connection. Like, for instance, stop saying things to your friends like, um, man, how come you haven't called me? Don't do that. When your kids come over, your adult children come, and then you say, well, it's been long enough. You think you would call your mother. Don't do that. Because when you do that, it's very ironic because the very thing that they're doing is the thing you're wanting them to do, but you're scolding them for not doing the thing they're already doing. That doesn't make sense. Like, mom, I'm standing here right now. That's why I'm here. And all you want to talk about is how I'm not here all the time or not here enough. See how that doesn't make sense? Be grateful for what you get from your friends, from your family. Say, this has been so nice, or it's so good to see you. I'm looking forward. I hope we can continue to connect in the future, but don't guilt trip, right? So that you can feel more connection. You're looking to the outside to solve something that's in here. Okay. So let's show gratitude for what we get from other people because they are not the source of connectedness. Your own perceptions are. Make sure that from now on you do connectedness meditation. If you're someone who needs more connection, do connectedness meditation. There's a few guided connectedness meditations inside the app, Mind by Roman Zanoni, available for iPhone and Android. Go and find those meditations inside the app, Mind by Roman Zanoni. It's a free app. And listen to those guided meditations so that you can feel a sense of connectedness.